games is just horrible play game after game, then you have to make a change. I think Hoyer bounces back. I think he's a tough guy. I think he still has enough guys around him to keep things focused and moving in the right direction. Now, I do have some issue with the way they are using the running backs, and I know that that's going to be addressed, and I know they spoke about it. And I want to know what you think. And again, I'm sorry I can't get into the chat room this morning. I can't pull up the chat room page for some reason, but
okay.
I want to know what everybody thinks about the usage of the running backs, because as I was watching that game yesterday, and Terry, you know how it is when you have DirecTV and you have all 8 games on at once, but you put the sound on the Browns game, even though it's 10-6 Jaguars, and you're like, what's going on? This should be a team that they should be steamrolling. I have to tell you that the national crew that for the Browns game on Sunday were just horrendous. I'm not going to mention any names.
Yeah,
but,
I'm with you.
One of the more horrendous jobs of play calling that I've heard in quite some time. And, I know that crew missed a bunch of things that I saw on a tiny, small screen. I was able to see that he was having trouble with the snaps.
Yeah, that was interesting. I've got my own issues with the announcers there too. I'm with you on that. But yeah, you talked about the running backs. What do you mean as far as rotating between the 3 of them? Because I like having 3. I like 4 because from what I hear, Winston has done a good job in practice, and that when he gets his opportunity, he may be able to step in there and fill a role. I don't know, but I don't like I don't like any kind of a forced rotation in anything, in any sport, any position. I think that I don't like. You go with what you're going to go with. If you decide this week that it's our best bet to attack with West and Crowell, then those are who we're going with. Or if it's Tate and West or Tate and Crowell, of course I'm a Crow guy, and I like Tate. I do. I like Ben Tate, but there's some people that don't. There's a reason that the Browns invested what they did, and not that it's a ton of money, but there's a reason that the Browns brought him in. But, again, I think that we saw the Browns do their best with the running game when they had 2 backs and they rotated. Whether those 2 backs were Crowell and West once Tate went out, or was Crowell and Tate the week that West was out. So there's a difference, and I think trying to force a 3rd guy in, no matter who that 3rd guy is, throws off your rotations. It throws off guys getting a sweat going and getting a groove going, and so I'm not a big fan of that. I say pick your 2, and we're going with it, and unless somebody gets banged up, we're going to stick with these guys, But that's my thought on that, because I think if you look at their yards per carry, obviously the weeks that they focused on 2 backs, they were more effective than when they had 3. And that's just my thought. It's a great thing to have 3. Well, I like what Pettin said yesterday. It's a good problem to have, but I still just use the word problem, so you need to get that word out of there. That means, yeah, it's a good thing, but it's not. We need to pick 2, and we need to stick a little more reps to those 2 and a little less on trying to get. I truly believe that part of giving West those carries on 2nd and 3rd down the other day with 2 and 1 yard to go was a way of saying, hey, you're still my guy. I sat you down last week. I'm going to give you a chance this week. It's almost like when a manager goes up to a guy and says, hey, I know I gave you the last 3 days off. Get up there and hit a home run for me. I'm trusting you in the bottom of the 9th inning. I'm not saying bottom of the 9th, that kind of drama, but it felt like a coach going to his guy and saying, hey, I need 1 yard. I'm going to trust you. So, see, if you trust me, I'll trust you. And that really felt like, but regardless, they didn't get it. They didn't get the yard. I would have fed to Crow on that play. But and if I went for it on 4th and 1, I would have fed the Crow on that one too. I wouldn't have tried to throw a pass. But it's easy for me to second guess coaches from up here. But I don't like the 3, forcing the 3 in. Pick 2 of them and feed them.
Yeah, I don't mind the 3. But I agree with you. Don't force the 3rd guy in. Let the guy roll in naturally and make it happen. And if you have 2 good guys that you could saddle the horse with and ride into the end zone with, You go with your 2 lead guys or your best of your 3 lead guys, your best of your 3 guys. You really have to. It's not a matter of evaluating which guy runs better or which guy looks better running on the inside or which guy follows the blocks better. It's when to decide when to use who. And that's what they need to learn. That's what Cleveland's offense needs to learn. Who is the right horse for the right job?
I agree with you. Like the other day, I know nobody was getting anything going with the run game, but the few runs that they got were Crow. I said, even the little ones, I said he's still driving through guys. He's still pushing forward a little bit more. I would have really, mid-game, and again, this is second-guessing, and I hate to do that, but mid-game, I definitely would have narrowed that focus of my running game down to Crow for a while and tried to get him beating that defense. And that's part of it, too. That's one of the things that made that running game work in the few weeks that it was really cooking, was you're pounding them early, you're pounding them often. By the end of the game, they're like, man, these guys are still hitting us in the mouth, and that makes a difference there too. And that's why I like Crow. I like Tate. I like Tate more than some people do, but I don't love him where he's this untouchable, untradeable guy. I mean, I like Tate, and I think he's a good piece to have there. I think he's a good athlete, and I like the way he catches passes out of the backfield. But I love Isaiah Crowell. I've said that from the second that we signed him as an undrafted free agent. I said, man, watch out for this guy here. So, and I think that, but the Browns are hesitant to go that way, I think, too, because you did bring in Ben Tate. And, but they've shown that pedigree and dollar sign isn't necessarily important to them right now. So I don't know if that's why they're going with Tate as much as there's things that they like about what he brings to the table too. But and I like West. I'm not even trying to leave West out, because when we drafted T West, I said, man, you gotta go with this guy too. So, but again, you gotta pick a horse, ride with them, have another guy as your change of pace guy, and the third guy is just gonna have weeks where he doesn't necessarily get in the game plan.
Right, and that's really what people who don't understand the ins and the outs of the coaching side of things, they just want to see all 3 guys, or they want to see their guy, and they don't understand how the game plan is structured to use the guys who will best take advantage of the opposing team's weaknesses. That's what being a coach is, and that's really what my job as a college assistant coach was. As the quality control guy, I had to sit next to an offensive guy and a defensive guy in the booth, 2 guys screaming like nuts, and I got to focus on the video that I see coming across all the cameras wirelessly via the computer to decide what changes to make as we go. And let me tell you something, if you have a coach that doesn't know how to make a halftime change based on what they've seen in the first half, you've got a big problem.
You're listening to The Sports Fix. My man, Dr. Football Bill Chachkes, joining me, J-Rock, here as we roll on, talking some NFL. Don't forget, if you're tuning in, Doug Plagens, 15 minutes from now from the Lake Erie Monsters. He's going to be with us. We'll talk some Monsters hockey action with him. Right now, though, we're talking Browns and NFL, as I said, with Dr. Football. And you know what? Let's put that – I got to put it in the box, man. I don't know that I can do too much. No, I'm just kidding. But it is what it is, man. And the Browns, they sucked in pretty much every aspect of the game. Few people played well. A lot of people didn't. They got to fix it, or they'll lose again next week, and then we've got more of these questions, and I think they will. I think coming back home, it'll be a very interesting game to see. We'll talk more about Oakland coming on, but I fully expect this team to bounce back and come back with a much more competent effort next week and take care of business when they get back here to Cleveland. But let's talk about some other things going on around the NFL. Last night, Monday Night Football, I mentioned I wanted to talk a bit. I talked about the game a little bit at the beginning of the show. Texans jumped out early, 13-0. It's like, okay, looks like the Steelers, and I have no problem watching the Steelers get rolled at any time or juncture of the season. But, man, they said not so fast. Boom, boom, boom. 3 touchdowns on the board just like that. They held off the little bit of a comeback at the end of the game, and the Steelers get a much-needed victory for them last night. Antonio Brown, man, is there any? I gotta tell you, I hate giving credit to Pittsburgh for anything, man, but offensively they always find unique ways to use guys. They do it again with Antonio Brown. He catches passes, he runs those sweeps and those reverses, and he'll toss a dime from time to time too.
Yeah, I was not surprised because I know Pittsburgh could still reach down and pull something up and figure out a way to win a game. And, hey, let's face it, Tomlin has a great coaching staff under him. There's no doubt in my mind that, he's got probably the most Hall of Fame experience in that coaching staff just by flicking a switch and talking to Dick LeBeau, that's a tremendous staff. So if they have a way that they're going to find a way to beat the opponent, they're going to do it. And just because they're having a little bit of a down season overall doesn't mean that they're not a dangerous team.
Oh, absolutely. Le'Veon Bell, 145 yards total between on the ground. Speaking of on the ground, Bell wasn't even the leading rusher. Antonio Brown was with the 90 yards on the ground there for Pittsburgh as he did his thing. But, yeah, Le'Veon Bell, a strong night for him, and a win for them now puts the Steelers back above the 500 ledger, now a half a game ahead of the Browns. Still too early to look at that kind of stuff, but to wrap up this week here in the NFL, a couple of things. Speaking of Bell, I wanted to ask you this. Let's while we're talking about running backs, you got matchup last night of number 2 and number 3 with Foster and Bell. But how about number 1? I mean, DeMarco Murray. John McMullen and I have talked about his season several times. He's on pace to break the rushing record. He is having a monster. I believe he's at nearly 1,000. Is he about 920 or something like that right now through 7 games? He's on pace to definitely to go right up to the wire to challenge the record. What do you think? Can he stay healthy enough? Can DeMarco Murray stay healthy, and does he have an opportunity to challenge for the rushing record? What do you think?
Well, from what I saw on Sunday, and obviously the way the Giants played, that's no indicator of what Murray is really capable of, because I don't really think he was even going at full steam there in the second half. I think they knew they had the game locked up. But, I can't tell you, I could say this, at least 1,800 yards the way he's going. At least 1,800.
Oh, at least, for sure. I'm thinking, he's easily on the, he's set to right around the record is where he's set to finish up at. But, yeah, just an amazing, we know what he's capable of, but staying healthy, staying on the field, and Dallas staying committed to that running game, all important things there. But it's going to be interesting as the season rolls into the midway part now on down the stretch to see if he does maintain that pace, and then watch him try to chase that down. But it's definitely been a pleasure to watch him run the rock here in the first half of the season. And a surprise by the Cowboys, the way they've been playing. They should be where they're at when you've got a running game to lean on like that. It makes Tony Romo and those guys look a whole lot better offensively too. Hey, something else I want to talk about. I haven't even mentioned it on the show here. Didn't get to it yesterday because we were so busy breaking down the debacle down in Jacksonville there. Percy Harvin trade over the weekend there, and you heard some stories. Matter of fact, we here in Cleveland, I don't know if you guys heard, but supposedly there was an inquiry made in a potential trade. Jordan Cameron's name was broached, I guess. They made a call to the Broncos for Thomas, the tight end. They made a couple of other calls to teams before they eventually Seattle settled on trading Percy Harvin to the Jets for couple of conditional draft picks there, which basically was just to avoid the Jets having to fight with people on the waiver wire to try to end up with a claim. But I found it funny that after nobody bid on the trade except the Jets, then the story came out that they were just going to cut Harvin if nobody else traded for him, which makes you feel really good if you actually considered trading for him while you were on the phone. And now you fast one on me. But Percy Harvin, a lot of people say causing some problems behind the scenes there in Seattle. and they made the move to very quickly extricate him now onto somewhere else. Of course, the Jets is where they go. But what are your thoughts on Percy Harvin being traded from Seattle, whatever the situation was there, now him going to the Jets?
Well, obviously, Jerry, the situation was untenable for all parties involved. If, they won a Super Bowl last year, whether this guy was a huge